People gathered to hear Barack Obama deliver key foreign policy speech on his current European tour. The Democratic presidential hopeful laid out his vision for America's place in a new world order, saying he was speaking as a proud citizen of the United States and a fellow citizen of the world.
That's right. We don't know. Is he a citizen of the United States, a citizen of Africa or Kenya, a citizen of the world, a citizen of the universe? That would be one cousin Barry Obama. Thank you for joining us on the program today. You're listening to Deadline Live, AmericanFreedomRadio.com. I am your tour guide, as always, Jack Blood reporting. Jerome Corsi is on deck here. Jerry has been on the program at least 5 years, over and over again, and has done some fantastic work. Not all of it, of course, we disagree with. Not all of it we agree with. And we don't have to. But he comes up with some great information, and he has really been on the forefront for the truth about our alleged president. He is Jerome Corsi, a staff reporter for World Net Daily, a website really getting a lot of attention now under this new receivership. He is a Ph.D. from Harvard University in political science. He has written several books, including, as I mentioned, The Obama Nation and The Late Great USA, which talks about the North American Union, something we have talked about for a long time, and Black Gold Stranglehold, which debunks the myth of alleged peak oil. Joining us on the program, Jerome Corsi. Jerry, good to have you.
Great to be back with you. Thank you, Jack.
It's been a while. You have been traipsing and traveling all around the world exposing our alleged president.
Well, I was in Kenya during the election campaign. That was back in October. And I brought back the affidavit of Obama's grandmother, who swore that Barack Obama was born in Kenya and that she attended the birth in Mombasa. So it was quite an adventure. I also was going to give a press conference the last day that I was there, and my press secretary and I were detained by the Kenyan authorities, even with armed military and machine guns. So it turned out to be a pretty exciting day. We did leave, though, on the plane we were scheduled to leave on that evening.
You found a lot of information there. I'd like you to kind of go over that again for people who weren't aware of it. But maybe Barack Obama's grandmother's wrong. Maybe she doesn't know where her grandson was born.
It's a very intriguing issue. The World Net Daily, we've devoted the entire last issue of our monthly magazine, The Whistleblower, the April issue, to this whole issue of the birth certificate and the eligibility of Barack Obama for president. Jack, the problem is we don't have the original birth certificate for Barack Obama even yet, and that is the long-form certificate that we all have that is generated by the hospitalist, the doctor, the time of birth, the weight of the baby. Barack Obama has spent millions of dollars with attorneys refusing to turn over that document, and also just a whole set of documents on his education, his passports. The truth is we have very, very little original documentation on Barack Obama to know truly who he is.
If it's not a problem, if he's not hiding anything, it just seems so obvious, such common sense that he can produce all the documents and we can put that thing to bed.
Well, it'd be an easy solution, wouldn't it, Jack? I mean, if I'm an investigative reporter, my experience is that when politicians don't release documents, they have something to hide. And so this whole issue, I think, has gained momentum because Barack Obama has been determined not to release birth certificate information, college records, his passport information, just a whole series of records. I mean, and to compare it to John McCain, there were issues about his eligibility as a naturally born citizen because John McCain was born in Panama. But John McCain produced all the documents, showed his father's military record, why he was born in Panama, and he produced this to Congress. And Congress certified that John McCain was naturally born under the Constitution and qualified to run for president. Barack Obama refused to submit to a similar congressional investigation.
Well, there's globalization for you, right? Here's our last presidential selection process, and two of the guys weren't born here.
Well,
I guess we'll look for Arnold Schwarzenegger in 2016 then.
Well, see, it's the just not being born in the United States is not necessarily a disqualification under the Constitution. What happens is that Barack Obama's mother was underage, and his father was a Kenyan citizen. So this is a complication under federal law. And for John McCain, His father was in the military, and of course the family was overseas, and so John McCain was able to produce the documentation. Now, if Barack Obama is telling the truth, and he was born in Hawaii, I don't see why the administration or the campaign would have spent millions of dollars to hide these records.
Yeah, we're not even sure if his father is his father. I mean, I just can never remember. Well, I guess we had a little bit of this with Bill Clinton. We weren't sure his father was his father either.
There are mysteries about Barack Obama's birth and his parentage, but, again, we have somebody in the White House. I think the American people are entitled to know the truth. And the experience, the background history for presidents who do not release documents that are demanded by the public is not very good. I mean, take a look at Richard Nixon and Watergate. And it builds. I mean, the Watergate burglary occurred in 1972. At the time, the Nixon administration dismissed it as a third-rate burglary. It wasn't until August 74 that Richard Nixon resigned in disgrace after the Watergate tapes got made public. And, of course, the two journalists at that time who pursued the issue, Woodward and Bernstein, for the Washington Post, were the darlings of the liberal media and the leftist politicians in general, because Richard Nixon was hated by the left. Now, any of the journalists who raise these issues about the birth certificate or the other documentary evidence about Barack Obama's past are vilified by the left, who want to hold Barack Obama as some kind of a messiah or the one that we're not supposed to criticize. It just won't work. The history is that these documents eventually will come out.
Yeah, probably too late. Well, I mean, just no offense, but we all hated Nixon back in those days. I'm old enough to remember. It wasn't just
there was a lot of Nixon hating
the liberal media or the Democrat, but it is very difficult, as you found out writing Unfit for Command, it is very difficult to expose these icons of the liberal left.
Well, the left does protect its own and attacks, and it's getting more vicious. I think the left has gotten to be this kind of cutting-edge, angry, almost like the bleeding left. That it's not just cutting edge anymore, it's bleeding edge. And the radicalism of the left is so intense that it's very hard to have the ordinary discourse or investigations that would have been typical in prior ages. I mean, I'm seeing this again even with Michael Savage and Great Britain, deciding Michael Savage can't go to Great Britain because of his views. I mean, Great Britain, I just wrote a commentary that will appear tomorrow in WorldNet Daily, saying Great Britain is the home of John Stuart Mill, his great essay on liberty established one of the bases for free speech that we continue to follow, that free speech, even when you don't want to hear someone, in fact, especially when you don't agree with them, is exactly the kind of speech that needs to be protected.
Yeah, the Great Britain, allegedly the home of the Magna Carta.
Right.
Yeah, it is pretty disturbing. I'm not a big Michael Savage fan, obviously, but, I mean, here's a guy, he's Jewish.
Well,
I don't understand, what the problem is. I guess that makes all of us kind of marked men, doesn't it, Jerry?
In a sense it does. And, it doesn't, I don't think it's dependent on whether you agree or don't agree with Michael Savage. I think the record is that Michael Savage has been peaceful. He's just expressed views. Some of his views may be a little outrageous, but this is exactly the speech we want to protect.